This is a continuation of Little Jack Receives His Call to Adventure. Chapter 2. Little Jack Visits the Ancient One. Little Jack entered the wooded area and started walking. He finally got to the bottom of that steep hill. Be there, please be there. I hope the Ancient One is there. This was the litany that accompanied Little Jack's thoughts as he started climbing the hill. Finally, getting to the top, Little Jack looked around expectantly. Unfortunately, the old man was nowhere in sight. Disappointed, Little Jack sat down and looked off into the distance. He stared off into space for a while, thinking about what had happened that day. Then a rustling sound from behind caught his attention. Little Jack quickly turned around to see that the Ancient One had arrived. Little Jack said, "Wow, you're here! You're really here! That's great!" The Ancient One said, "Yes, I've made it. I heard your call, so here I am." Little Jack asked with surprise, "You heard me? But I never said anything out loud. How? I don't get it." The Ancient One said, "I heard you nevertheless. So, young Jack, what can I do for you?" Little Jack told the old man about what had happened earlier. He then explained, "I didn't play the victim role. I managed to stand up to them, with a little help from this funny guy named Will. But I don't know how easy it will be to stand up to them the next time. I know I could just not hang out with them, but that would be pretty lonely. They're the only guys who live anywhere near me. I realize it's my choice, but it's a hard decision to make." The Ancient One said, It sounds like if you choose to drop their friendship, you will feel like a martyr. Is that correct?" Martyr had been another one of their spelling words. Little Jack knew that a martyr was someone who made a sacrifice for a good cause. He said, "Well, yeah, I guess I will kind of feel like a martyr. If I have to let those guys go, who will I hang out with then?" The Ancient One smiled with compassion. He said, "Yes, I can see where that will be a challenging decision for you to make. Is it just the cigarette they are pressuring you about, or is it other things too?" Little Jack said, "So far, it's just been the cigarettes. But I know that Tom and several of the other guys drink. So I figure they're probably going to pressure me about that too. I'm not sure if any of them do drugs. I've never heard about them shoplifting either. But then, I guess I don't really know them all that well." The Ancient One said, "I've asked you before, Jack, but I'll ask you again to see if you still feel the same way. How do you feel about doing any of those things?" Little Jack thought for a moment and then said, "Well, I know I don't want to smoke. I hate the smell. It makes my throat hurt. Plus, the smell of ashtrays makes me want to throw up." "I've smelled marijuana before, and I think that smells pretty bad too. Besides, I don't want to kill off my brain cells or hurt my body in any way. As for shoplifting, you can forget that. I'm not going to break the law and get put in some reform school or something. And as far as alcohol, well, I don't want to try that either." Little Jack paused, looked off into space for a few moments, and then glanced at the Ancient One as he continued. "Mom told me one of the reasons that my parents got divorced was that Dad drank a lot. He wasn't very nice to her when he got drunk. That's probably why I don't see him all that often either. It's probably because he's too busy drinking. It probably killed off the brain cells that knows about how to be a good dad to his son. I don't want to do any of that stuff, but I do want to have friends." "Well, Jack," the Ancient One said, "just like you had a choice whether to allow yourself to be a victim of circumstances or the hero of your own life, you have another choice to make." "What's that, Ancient One?" The Ancient One said, "It sounds like you have issued yourself a call to adventure. Can you figure out what that call to adventure is?" Little Jack thought for a while. Not quite getting where the old man was going, Little Jack shrugged his shoulders. The Ancient One said, "All right, Jack. Heroes always receive calls to adventure from various directions. Some calls they feel drawn to accept, some calls they feel they must refuse. It sounds like Tom issued you a call to the adventure of trying a cigarette. You refused his call. I can see that you have made a lot of progress. You did not mention refusing his call out of fear of what your mother might think. That was when you were still intent on choosing that victim role. You truly have taken on more and more of your hero status because you seem to be making most of your own decisions. So I will ask again, what call to adventure have you given yourself?" "Well, I guess I've given myself the call to not drink or smoke or to try drugs or shoplift or other bad stuff like that," Little Jack said. The Ancient One asked, "Do you plan to accept your call to adventure or refuse it?" Little Jack said, "I plan to accept it, of course." The Ancient One asked, "Even if that means that you might have to make the sacrifice of letting all those friends go?" Little Jack looked grim and then finally said, "Yeah." The Ancient One said, "You still have another choice, Jack." Little Jack asked, "Yeah? What's that?" The Ancient One said, "You plan to tell those friends of yours no each and every time they offer you cigarettes or drugs or alcohol. Is that correct?" Little Jack nodded his head and said, "That's right." The Ancient One said, "This means that you might have to make the sacrifice of losing their friendship should they decide that it is their way or the highway, as some young people like to say. It would be natural for you to feel rather sad about losing their friendship. But if you choose to hold on to a lot of feelings of sadness and anger and betrayal, then you are choosing to be a martyr. However, if you choose to actively find other people you can spend time with and find other interests to keep yourself occupied with, then you are choosing to be the master of your own life." Little Jack said, "Let me see if I have this straight. I'm a hero if I don't hold on to the victim role. If I get caught up in making a sacrifice and then getting bogged down in a lot of fear or anger or unhappiness, then I am choosing to be a martyr. But if I choose to make the most of this situation and maybe even find some other better friends to hang out with or some fun activities to do, then I am the master of my own life. Is that right, Ancient One?" The Ancient One smiled and said, "Exactly. You can choose to feel like a martyr or a master of your own life. So which do you choose?" Little Jack thought for a bit. Then he nodded his head and said, "Yeah, I figure I want to be the master of my own life. So next time they pressure me, I'll just say no. If Tom and the others won't back down, I'll walk away. Besides, maybe Will would like to hang out with me sometimes. And maybe my mom would be willing to let me ride the bus after school one day to where some of my other friends live, and she can pick me up later. And on the weekends, they can come visit me, or I can go visit them. I could even work hard at finding other people who feel the same way I do. I can't be the only one who feels this way. Yeah, I would rather be my own master rather than let Tom and the other guys trying to master me. So that's what I choose. Thanks, Ancient One. I feel much better now." The Ancient One said, "You are quite welcome, Jack." Then the Ancient One turned and walked away. Little Jack watched him go. Afterward, he too turned and walked down the hill. Little Jack's hero's journey had just begun. Already he could tell that it would be a very interesting adventure. Tune in next time for the next story in the Little Jack Hero's Journey series.